Welcome to the third edition Off the Hook. And I just realized I named everything incorrectly when I put it up. So sorry, guys, back in the studio. But tonight is a little different. We've brought back Lenny and Brandon. Tonight, though, we're not going to just talk about bourbon. We're going to talk about some different ways to invest. And I have to admit, Lenny, and we'll start there, Lenny. Let's go ahead and introduce yourself a little bit. Of course, I'm Randall. Lenny is, I guess, our group's, I guess you are the Johnny Appleseed for cryptocurrency. So where did you get into cryptocurrency and what got you started with cryptocurrency?
So I got into it through Reddit. One of our other mutual friends got me onto Reddit, which is don't ever start that addiction. But I got into cryptocurrency, learned on Reddit in about 2016, and I was on the front end of that crypto, the original boom. And I was, I guess, unlucky enough that I didn't hit that first boom, but I also wasn't able to buy any crypto until the boom subsided. So I didn't buy at the top of the market there, which was a godsend. But I was big into it just because it was interesting. And right when I got into it, it just started taking off. Bitcoin went from basically, 300 to 20,000 there in that, its initial span. And I got into it. So I bought some there on the backside. And then, to be honest with you, it kind of just nosedived after there. And I was pretty convinced that I just bought, a bubble asset and had been hoodwinked by the computer geniuses that developed it. And it pretty much sat dormant in my account for, basically until the last couple of years. And then, or not year, probably a year and a half. And then I started slowly buying more and more as my interest peaked back into it. And it's been quite a profitable little venture for me.
Well, I'm and I'm not. I finally topped $1,000. I'm proud. I've been doing like when we first started, I said I was going to do a set amount. So I have $50 every 2 weeks that I'm set aside. It goes into it. For the folks that don't realize how easy to do this. Right now, I'm doing it through a PayPal account. They charge you some fees, but that's the only way I got started. So I buy that amount, and according to which one I think is down at the time, I buy that one. So I've enjoyed it, and to be honest with you, I've made money. Like a week ago, though, I lost my back, but that's kind of part of the market, I think. That with crypto, there's going to be some sometimes. And it seems like about 2 weeks ago, people panicked and the Dogecoin hit, and then all of a sudden, everybody was selling off their Bitcoin. I'm sure it hit you too a little bit.
Yeah, so the way you're doing it now, just putting in $50 when you can, that's a great way to dollar cost average your asset there. So no matter what the price is, you're just buying it on a regular interval. That kind of helps you avoid the manic highs and the manic lows, trying to time when you buy. So that's a good way to do it. And it is an extremely volatile asset. It's the most volatile asset there is. But I believe as the world continues to become more digital, that will follow as well. I think we lost Randall there. Chain.
Yeah. Hey guys, sorry, we're a little bit.
You're good.
Are you getting ready for me, or is it just?
Randall, you're breaking up on us pretty bad, at least me.
Yeah, me too.
Okay. Everybody sit tight. Stay with us. I'm going to go in and
yeah, go ahead. I'll ask Lenny a couple questions about it. So what do you think about any of the other cryptocurrency out there now, like Ethereum for one?
I own a lot of Ethereum, Bitcoin, XRP, which is Ripple, Chain and a couple other coins that I've taken some dives on. I think Ethereum probably will end up being the one with the most use case for what it can do for smart contracts. NFTs, as we've seen, have been a big boom. Bitcoin, is kind of like the MySpace of the, well, maybe not MySpace, but it's the first and the loudest, and it's definitely held on to its reign. And I think it provides a useful store of value for monetary. It's anti-inflationary. There's only 21 million that will ever be mined. And there's only 18.5 million out there now in the world. So as they continue to get mined, they become more and more rare. And we just went through a halving, which means every 4 years, the amount of Bitcoin is reduced by half that is rewarded in the mining of it. So when you have through the Bitcoin network, when you have the reward for solving the algorithms and being the first to solve the equations is what you get in Bitcoin. So every 4 years that gets cut in half. And so we just went through one, which is why you saw that epic run up, or one of the reasons in theory you saw the epic run up to what it is now. But I think Ethereum will have the most use case moving forward in terms of what it can do.
Right. I mean, essentially, that's like the internet, right?
Correct.
For the crypto world, right? So it's, I heard it's going to really compete with Amazon in the near future, potentially.
Yeah, it's got a vast majority of other cryptos run off the Ethereum platform and network and design. So you are correct on that. Randall, I think we got you back.
Yeah, guys, I'm if I drop again, I just looked outside. The Comcast truck is in front of my house of all times. So they're probably working on my line. So
it's all good.
I'm on my cell broadcast right now. So if I get a little choppy, y'all move on without me. So,
No
but
problem.
I'll be right back. But I did hear you about the Ethereum, and that's actually where I was gonna go with this. And are you buying Ethereum now, or did I miss that?
Yes, I do. I have Ethereum, and I do it similar to you now, Randall. As I buy it, once a week. I set aside some money to buy Bitcoin and Ethereum. Those are the two that I'm most heavily invested in. But yeah, I buy a little bit each week.
That's awesome, man. It works for me. The way I'm able to do it is I'm able to take the money directly out of my paycheck, send it to a separate account. That account then splits out, and for me, it's a godsend, or I'll never do it. It then deposits half the money into my daughter's college fund, and then the other half goes into Bitcoin. For me, it's a real easy way, and I've already got now where I'm not used to seeing it in my paycheck. So that really helps me. Is I don't expect it to be there. I'm not taking money out of the bank; it's already invested. So. Brandon, have you done much with Bitcoin? And we've got a bunch of folks on, man. If y'all got comments, shoot them at us.
No, I haven't yet. I've just been doing a lot of research thus far on it, and I've got most of my stuff's tied up more in real estate kind of assets than that way. But yeah, it's very interesting to me. I'm trying to learn as much as I can about it, and yeah, I'm looking to definitely do it. I don't know why I'm waiting so long,
but I mean, and we've all talked about it. We joke in our little group, but you are a true real estate guy. You flip, you build, you anything to do with real estate. That's kind of how you make your living, day in and day out. Correct?
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. Yeah, we're general contractors, so obviously we help out a lot of other people as well, doing remodels, additions, that sort of thing. But yeah, we definitely look for real estate investments as far as flipping or potential rental properties as well.
Do you see real estate investment as an option for the small investor? I know we've actually had some talks in our friends group about maybe doing some stuff together. It just seems that if you are starting new and you have a group that you can put together, it does open some doors for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, essentially your goal in investing in real estate. So you got two options, one, the flip, which is a quick turnaround. It's almost comparable to day trading, if you will. It's a lot shorter term type deal. But then, if you're looking to create some type of passive income to actually build some, a little bit of wealth in your portfolio, rental's the way to go. Buy something. You don't have to start out big, get something. Well, I mean, it's hard now to find anything around 150 to 200, but if you can find something in there, you buy it, you renovate it. Most of the time, the bank will loan you the money because the renovation value is they'll loan up to 80% on. Then you can, at that point, once it's renovated, you either refinance it after you get it leased and create some type of passive income there. Say, your mortgage is going to be $1,000 a month on that, and your rental property value is looking at around $1,400 a month. So you got $400 extra a month that you created in passive income that comes in. And you do that a few times. Soon you start supplementing your job.
There's a restaurant I go to every day, and there's a 22-year-old kid that works in the restaurant. His parents own the restaurant. He's been working there since he's 14. He bought a trailer park at 21. And to me, he's my hero because it's what he could afford. He got probably 10 rental units out of it. He's not making a killing, but I mean, he's making
it's a start.
Four figures of passive income.
Yeah.
So 21 years old. I mean, I wish it's never too young to start, I guess. That's my point.
It doesn't take much. And, people are scared to go in debt per se, but there's such thing as good debt and bad debt. And when you have that kind of turnaround, that's good debt. And banks, the more debt you go into, good debt, they're going to loan you more money.
Right.
You're going to, build a rapport with them as well. So, but you definitely, if you start doing more than one, even if you do one, just for tax purposes, I would recommend creating an LLC. Super easy to do. You can do it on, there's several websites you can even do it on, or of course,
LegalZoom, $395. RiverCity-Media is there.
Exactly.
So I spent less than $500.
And guess what? Back. It's a tax write-off.
Yeah,
right?
I'm going to make that back and just the things I find that I can write off of my taxes. So
that's the difference. Having, even if it's a small LLC and you don't do much, but having an actual business provides you so much better tax advantages.
Right.
And that's where you kind of start messing up if you don't, because you get taxed on income when actually there's so many depreciations and losses you can take. Even though you still have a positive cash flow, you actually get to write off more than what your actual positive cash flow is. So then you're actually applying those write-offs to your W-2s, so it's beneficial for sure. Start an LLC if you go that route.
Lenny, I often say, and I don't know if you even know it, but your nickname in our little group chat when I'm not talking to you is Gordon Gecko. So I'm referring to you as, but I mean, that's a compliment to me from me, man, because you seem to research heavily investments. Do you have, well, first of all, let's go back. Have you done any real estate?
Yeah, I have a rental property here in Nashville, and it's great. Yep, I wish I could get another, kind of what Chain reiterated. It's a difficult time now. We're at some all-time highs, but I think it is, like you said, it's a good debt you can have, and people are afraid to go into debt for sure because it can be scary to put yourself out there financially. But it's also it's an asset that can be sold relatively quickly, and potentially you won't lose your shirt on. Let's say you buy a house that you speculate that you can rent out for $1,000. Okay, you lose your job or something happens, you have to get that money back. You know, that's a relatively fast asset you can sell again and probably break even on. To be honest, so yeah.
Well, I mean, a compliment to everybody in this, and we do have an eclectic group, but when I see that the, Chris, criminal we call him, and then myself, almost everybody has started investing in something. And again, I'm in my 50s, but I have an 11-year-old daughter. My investment goal is to give her a chance to go to school and not walk out with a bunch of debt like I did. So it's, to me, it was defining a goal. Do you find it helps you both to say, hey, I would like to buy a new car in 6 years, but I'm going to do this plan? Or is it, when it goes into investment, it stays there?
So I do a couple of different things. So I kind of keep myself hungry in the sense that I never let too much money be in my bank account. I automatically invest it. So then I look at my bank account and I say, well, I don't have any money there, so I can't go do these things. But I try to shift money over to my investment as soon as possible. And I think it's, a lot of people say time in the market versus timing the market. So the sooner you can start, the better. And even if you start with something simple where you just buy, a typical S&P 500, which just tracks the general market, look what we historically have done. Granted, we're in the bull market now, but it averages 8 to 10%. You can't hardly beat that, in my opinion. But I try to do a little of all those things you just mentioned, Randall.
Yeah, I think
Well,
you got to set goals. I mean, it just, as human nature, it helps, almost climb the ladder, if you will. Like, you gotta set goals and aspire to them. Try and make it happen. And I think if the tricky thing is, I wouldn't set them too low, because sometimes you take them for granted, and you're just like, whatever. That's easy to get. I can do that whenever. But like Lenny said, keeping yourself hungry is a big part of it. And hiding your money kind of in investments, definitely help that. That's the track to building wealth.
Well, and I'll admit that, I was, for multiple reasons, I got behind the curve. But what I set out as a plan to invest, I find I'm able to overinvest. I'm going to be honest. My plan was maybe to get $500 a month across the board in my investments. I've been able to do probably $1,000 a month, which is more than I ever dreamed I could. But one of the tricks for me was exactly what you said. I get paid every 2 weeks, and I know I can live off of what I make. If there's $500 in my account at the end of that 2 weeks, I go buy something. In the stock market, I was advised by a couple of you guys to keep it simple, and I do. I have one stock that I kind of research myself, but I mean, I'm buying Twitter, Apple, GM, pretty standard. Yeah, there's a insurance company I've bought some that Lenny recommended me to get. Do you find that's actually a good investment strategy for a beginner? Just buy the companies that's going to return. I bought some Amazon. I just almost run of the mill stuff.
Those are great blue chip stocks, and they're not dissimilar from what we were talking about real estate earlier, where they hold their value very well. And if something does happen, you can cash those out, and you most never likely will lose money. And if you hold them long enough, they will make you a good deal of money. And you can't go wrong with those blue chip stocks.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like I said, for me, it's more on the real estate side of things, but yeah, I mean, it's always going to turn around, the housing industry and the market. I mean, history shows that we're going to have dips, but it always comes back.
Our boy Chappie, he's following in with Eli Lilly has done quite well for him. So I don't know that one. Maybe I need to look it up and see it. But Chappie,
Yeah,
glad
Eli
you're
Lilly's a
here.
big pharmaceutical company. Johnson and Johnson, Merck.
Yeah.
That's one of the big boys out there. Probably, I don't own any of it, but I'm sure it's a great investment and a great store value as well.
All right, guys. I'm not going to get off the investment thing. Believe it or not, it really has. I found myself the other night turning the TV off and reading the Wall Street Journal online. And again, it's I give you all the credit. I think when I got my first $1,000 in my Robinhood account, I sent it to the group text like, man, I just can't believe I did this. So here, alternative investments. Now, when we talk about that, there's something that I have done. And for years, I've collected what I considered rare sports memorabilia. And I do have quite a collection. And I've took a bath in it. I've sold some of it, but it's so volatile. Do you find, like, even collecting cars, some people do that, any kind of collection, you really need to be an expert on that field to get into it. Have you ever tried antiques or anything like that, you guys?
I have not. I see a lot of people, doing. I feel like some of the collectible items with cards have come back around, kind of full circle now. It seems like, from at least what I see online. But in terms of antiques like watches, classic cars, furniture, stuff like that, I don't have any of that. It just doesn't. It's outside of my field of knowledge, and I would be hesitant to throw money at something I'm not terribly familiar with.
So to give you an example of how bad cards crashed, in 2007, I made probably $11,000 or $12,000 off of eBay selling cards.
Wow.
And I probably had that amount in my possession at that time. The bottom fell so badly that $12,000 of cards have been sitting in my closet. And if I'd have sold them in the last 13 years, I would have lost a lot of money. They're back to probably that level that I could profit a little bit, but it's a chance. Is there anything that you've ever thought about investing, Brendan, in that's not run of the mill? I mean, we're gonna go start buying models of Poppy Van Winkle. Or...
No, I mean, I've got some some nice bourbons that are somewhat collectors, but when I was a kid, I did the sports memorabilia, and I was really big into baseball cards.
Yeah.
But as of late, I have not. Like Lenny said, I've spent more time kind of my lane, staying in my lane of what I know.
Right. I'm looking for
but
something.
At the same time, I think I watched Gary Vee speak on this, but
Gary Vee he's the reason the industry's back.
Yeah.
He's literally
and I think he was talking too about how blockchain can really change in the digital world. Like if you can buy, for instance, a card as a digital photo of it and throw it up on a frame on your wall or something like that, the means to get something that way through the blockchain or crypto could change things.
Absolutely.
So I think it kind of really ties into everything we're talking about.
What caused that collapse in the card prices, Randall?
Do what?
I said, what caused the collapse in card prices?
It's happened twice to me. One time was in the 90s. In the card companies in the 90s, just overproduced. And if there was, and the big thing back then was Ken Griffey Jr.'s rookie year. I remember I bought probably 500 of them at $10 and $15. Well, and everybody thought, well, I'm going to make a fortune. And he did have a great career. But what we found out is it's scarcity, just like everything else. And there was 1,000 guys like me that had 500 of them stored back. And there was another 10,000 out in unopened packs. And it killed the market, and it died for several years. Now, the market came back in 2005, 6, 7. It started picking up again, but it's really associated with more memorabilia. I was going to see if I can get this up. This is something I picked up. As you can see it, and everybody knows I'm a Tennessee fan, and I picked it up. It's about a $79 card at the time, but that top player at the time, it was a Josh Dobbs, Josh Malone, and Alvin Kamara. Well, as we all know, Alvin Kamara has become a superstar, and my $79 purchase now is worth about $600.
No kidding.
Now, I don't know if that ever leaves my personal collection,
Right.
but I've told my daughter when I die, she's at least assured of getting my sports memorabilia. But I've really enjoyed that. I've been buying Freddie Freeman's and Ronald Acuna's. And I think it's the same thing that you guys talked about. Don't be too speculatively. If you want to buy cards, buy people you know that are solid. Right? You don't buy, go buy Patrick Mahomes. His cards are not going to go down unless you think Patrick Mahomes is going to fall or flop.
Sure.
I'm not really crazy about running out and spending thousands and thousands of dollars on Trevor Lawrence cards before I ever see Trevor Lawrence play. So I might be late to the game somehow. And I'll be honest, the greatest, probably the most valuable investment I have right now, guys, is I bought a slew of Aaron Rodgers cards when he was sitting on the bench in Green Bay and not playing. And I've never sold one of them. So I actually pulled them out to send to Beckett because it's all conditioned. And I think it's time to sell them, but I'm going to sell them and flip them into some kind of stock market investment or some crypto coin. But I don't know that Aaron Rodgers is going to get any better than he is right now. So,
I see a lot of I feel like Pokemon cards, some of the super rare ones. I hear those things going for tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars, and it just blows my mind. I never got into that as a kid, but you hear about that now that these people are spending buku money on that. It's kind of mind-boggling.
And I wouldn't know if I had a great one. Go ahead, Grant. It's all right.
I'm curious. So I assume, and I'm a little, dumb on this subject, but I assume there are two types of collectors. One that collects, their favorite players that's never going to sell, within, the 10, 20 years that they're watching and really enjoying it.
Yeah.
And then there's those flippers that look for the rare stuff. Because I know in the bourbon world there are those two types: people that drink their stuff and people that flip it. And as a kid, like my favorite player was Nolan Ryan. I think I still have a little over 400 Nolan Ryan cards. Don't have the rookie card. That was the only one I could never get. But pretty much every other card they made of Nolan Ryan, I have. But they're sitting in my attic.
Those are your long-term investments in sports collectible. But Nolan Ryan is going to be Nolan Ryan till forever now. I don't spend a lot of money on it. I'm very careful with what I buy because, to be honest with you, I took a bath and I'm scared of it now. But I feel good about buying Freddie Freeman rookie cards. And two, it's condition. Gary Vee recently broke a record of he bought a Mike Trout card, like a 2009 Mike Trout for like $500,000. And I think that one act changed sports collectibles forever because a guy like Gary Vee saw the value of it. It was a one of one autographed in perfect 10 condition. He spent the money, and I think he flipped it about 4 years later for 2.2 million. So
It's crazy.
it's crazy. And I'm going to go,
Yeah.
we'll get off the sports. I'm going to go one other place that I think we can talk about, and then we'll get into whatever you guys want to talk about. And Brendan, this is in your wheelhouse. I have had a basement for 6 years. I was going to finish. Well, I'm getting a bonus next month at work, and I want it to, and it's a couple $1,000s. It's my standard yearly bonus. And I was going to finish. I thought about finishing my basement, and I had a quote from a guy. And I called him. I was like, "Hey, dude, I'm thinking about finishing my basement. Could you still frame it in?" And he goes, "No." And I went, "What do you mean, no? You just gave me this quote 6 months ago." He said, "My materials are 5 times now, Randall, what they were." Are materials really exploding that bad right now, Brandon? And does that make even more scarcity in the housing market?
For sure. The whole COVID thing, they put a lot of the factories and production out of work. They were quarter staffed or even less on some occasions. And, you saw lumber go from somewhere around 300, 330 per 1,000 board feet or per 100 board feet, whatever it is, to it's well over 1,000,
Great.
per 100 board feet. So, yeah, I mean, I quoted a house for a guy. I'm building another house for a guy, and relatively same to mine, square footage wise. And I mean, his was 2.5 times what my lumber package was. So, I mean, it's insane. And not just lumber. That's I think the forefront of it. But there's several other. All of the commodities are skyrocketing right now because the demand's so high. We just can't keep up.
Well, my lumber package that he quoted me about 11 months ago went up. It wasn't quite 2.5 times, but it's about double.
Oh, easy.
I was like, wow, man, I had no idea. So I guess that means it's a good time to invest in property, but maybe a bad time to build. Is that what we're looking at?
So it's a catch-22 because money's cheap right now.
Right.
Cheapest it's been in, I don't know, a long time. And everybody knows that. So you can afford, two times what you could afford,
Right.
8 years ago, 10 years ago. So, and that's where you're getting this buy up of houses and people, you got more people buying houses right now than probably in the history. And you just can't slow it down. And builders and developers cannot keep up with the market, nor can, the vendors. And it's going to be solved. And I think what's going to happen, once the interest rates hike back up, that's going to put a halt to things, and there'll be a slow down for sure, burst, and people won't be jumping around quite as much.
So that's a good question. And this is a question that just begs to be asked. And Lenny, I'm going to put this on to you. I feel like, and this is not getting into politics, we avoid politics. We'll talk about girls, sports, how to make money, but we kind of avoid it. But when interest rates move up and we get into kind of an inflation situation, which I think, and it doesn't matter who's in office, inflations are going to come. It's going to be secular, what do you do with your money during a situation where you have interest rates rising? Do you intentionally try to get your money out into the market more? Because it makes sense to me that if we're living with inflation, the only hedge we've got is maybe the stock market or crypto. Is that what people do, or do you?
You're already seeing it, Randall. You're already seeing it. In my opinion, you're already seeing that happen with people who are hedging against the upcoming inflation. Like you said, irrespective of politics, we printed 24% of our currency in 2020. So we have increased our inflation greatly, and we haven't seen, or we're starting to see some side effects of it. You know, in my opinion, you go to the grocery store, it's way more expensive than I ever remember. Seems like it's going rapidly up. But I think you're seeing that already in the housing market where people are saying, hey, money's cheap right now. Traditionally, real estate has been a great hedge against inflation because your money's in the market and it's not affected as much. And what you're seeing in the stock market too is already part of it because you're seeing people inflate these stocks that are beyond their worth just because it's a place to put your money that is not affected by inflation. So I think it's creating a bubble in the stock market and probably maybe not in the housing market because I believe that Brandon's right. It is a supply and demand issue on one side that builders can't just keep up with in the hot areas, you know, Middle Tennessee. They can't keep up with the supply side of what's going on. But I think it is starting to become unsustainable where you have people that have lived here their whole lives that can't afford, you know, what 4 years ago was a $300,000 house. Now it's 550. You know, they're priced out of that, so it becomes a little bit of a speculative bubble in that, in my opinion.
Yeah, and on the flip side of that, I mean, I think you're going to see people that are in those houses that bought at the top of the market, just like the stock market. They're going to see a massive upside down when the bubble does burst.
Yep.
That's why, like, if you're doing a real estate investment, not necessarily your house, because if you're living in your house, I mean, you haven't lost any money, just like stock market. You haven't lost any money until you sell.
Right.
So don't sell. Right. You hold on to it. It's gonna come back. You just, you're lucky you got that low interest rate, so you don't even have to worry about it. Don't lose sleep. But on an investment, when you pay $300,000 for a house, it gets a little bit tougher for you, especially if you're doing a flip or something on more of a short term deal, or you need to cash out and need your money. That's when you could really, take a bath or something of that nature. So just be leery of that. That's why I like to try and stay in the the national median range of that 200, 250, even 100,000. I don't like to get into the real expensive real estates for flips or anything like that, because if you get caught when it does burst, I mean, you're in trouble.
Do both of you, with what we're seeing coming with inflation, and again, are you going to? Because I have a car, I have it at a good interest rate. It's got 75,000 miles on it. With what's coming, and I expect an interest rate. The way in my head, I keep this car and I drive it until it does burst and it does turn the other way. Do you try to eliminate disposable income and big purchases outside of the house market during an inflation period? Not the time to go buy $3,000 worth of stereo equipment at 19%, right?
Exactly. It goes back to what I was saying with good debt, bad debt. Cars are fun. Cars are nice, but they're
Horrible investment.
They're not an investment at all, unless to get you to point A to point B. So you got to be somewhat conscious of your purchase on that. But just because you can't afford a $80,000 Range Rover right now, it's probably not the smartest decision. When you could buy a $30,000 car and put some more money into the stock market or a down payment on a rental property.
Yeah, I'm cheap, guys. I'm like that $12,000 range is
or
good.
Whatever. I was just using numbers.
I don't have a G-Wagon, guys. I swear, I don't.
Yeah,
We know
nor do I. I've got an old Dodge Ram, so I've never been one to spend a lot of money on cars, just because I know it's a depreciating asset, and in my industry, I mean, it's a work truck for me. So, like my, I don't know if you guys remember my red Dodge. I had that thing.
Yeah.
I bought it brand new, at a low point in the market, and first new car I ever bought. and I had that thing for 13 years. I had like 200 and something thousand miles on it. I mean, literally, I was clunking into the dealership to get a new one. So,
Yeah, I had.
That's the way cars should be treated.
yeah, well, could I have afforded a new car? Yeah, sure, but no reason to at that point.
Agreed.
It's incredible how many views we've had on this. It's really a subject that we have to remember this. We might have to make this a monthly feature. Randall with money. Nobody ever thought that would occur. All right, guys.
Hey.
I am going to slide a little bit away from money here. We got about 20 more minutes, and this is a really good time. I'm going to go buy some more Bitcoin as soon as this is over with. It's been a great talk, and
I think it's up like another 12 or 1,500 today.
Yeah,
Higher.
I have.
Are you aftermarket right now?
Go ahead.
Oh no, I was listening to you. Yeah, it came up this market today. Go ahead, Randall. Sorry.
I have one question that's for you, Brandon, from a listener up in Knoxville. He said, it's a friend of mine. He said he's been in his house for 15 years. He owes about 120 on it.
Yep.
He's and I know he does. He has a daughter my age. It appraised recently for about 250.
Okay.
He's thinking about selling to take some profit off the top. His question though is to you: if he sells and makes some profit, is he just eating that profit up to get in another new home? Should he find a home first? What would be, if he was going to do this to try to make a little money? I've advised him to find a home first that he can afford. What do you think you would go about doing it?
I would definitely try and find a home first and have a contingency offer put in as to, the sale of your house. But you can also, if you like the house right now, the problem is, if you do sell right now, unless you're going to find something lower that needs work or something like that, I mean, you're going to take all your profit and put it right back in to a house so you got to be careful because you could get back upside down when the bubble does burst. Then you're back to square one. Even though your interest rate's great, if you plan on being there for a while, that's fine because, like I said, money is cheaper. But you could also do a HELOC or a cash out refi, something like that, to where you can take that income and put it into another investment property as well. And I don't believe you get taxed on the cash out refi if you reinvest it, but I have to be checked on that. I'm not 100%.
No, if you put into another real estate, you're protected on those gains.
Yeah.
So I guess in layman's terms, he cashes out $100,000 that he's got in equity, buys another house, and now he has one mortgage on his original home. Could buy the second house and then flip it.
You got a down payment and then rent one, and that creates a passive cash flow.
Okay, I follow you. I don't think he's ever thought about that. To be honest with you, it was kind of
new to me. So that's the first step, and then I would create an LLC, refi, sell that to your LLC, whatever, and then you're in good shape.
And I'll tell you, getting an LLC started is a big advantage. I didn't realize.
For sure.
All right, guys. So we're going to jump off of money for just a minute, and so Wednesday or Thursday night we're going to have the NFL draft, and coming up here in just a few minutes, Raj and Robbie are going to talk about a little bit about the NFL draft, and then Thursday is going to be a lot of NFL draft talk. I got a different subject in the NFL draft for you two than those jabronis at 7:30. What, Lenny? What happens to all the players surrounding Trevor Lawrence this year once he's on the Jacksonville Jaguars and you have Urban Meyer? Are you a buyer or seller in the overall production of the Jacksonville Jaguars offense from a fantasy perspective only? Is it going to hurt James Robinson? Is it going to help Laviska Shenault? What is the fantasy impact of Trevor Lawrence?
it's
And
very. Go ahead.
two-time champ, Lenny. Let me say that. Two-time champ, Lenny.
It's 2 times. It's back to back, but a 3-time overall. So let's just get the record right.
Okay, we got the smack talk right.
It's very difficult to come in year one as a quarterback and have a dramatic impact. Statistically speaking, it almost never happens. Sometimes you catch, lightning in a bottle, so to speak, and it happens. But it's just the game speeds up even more for those guys. And, Trevor Lawrence is a great quarterback, and I think he's probably got all the skills to help him succeed. It's just a difficult thing to forecast. I would think they go down before they go up, but that's just me. I'm skeptical until I see it as a person. And so I kind of believe that about Trevor and the Jags. So, and it'll be Urban's first time in the NFL, if I'm not wrong, as a head coach. So that's a whole nother hurdle to jump through as well,
Yeah. So if we had James Robinson James Robinson had a great year. If you had James Robinson as a mid-second rounder going into the year, maybe he moves back to a late second rounder. It's not that these guys won't be valuable. I just think their value has decreased. Do you think that way, Jane?
Yeah, I agree. Back to the first question, I think, Urban comes from college, and his kind of MO is somewhat systematic in college. So I'm anxious to see how that transpires to the NFL, or if he hires the proper people around him or hired the proper people around him that's going to get him out of that mindset. Because he's always liked his running quarterbacks, not necessarily the guys that can pass. And typically in the NFL, you've got to have a pretty good arm or at least pretty good accuracy to bode well. So for me, I would probably I'd probably not buy at this point on that, especially fantasy wise. If I get something late in the rounds, I would definitely jump on it. But one of the top quarterbacks off the board, absolutely not.
Well, I thought I was going to have to mute you for a second because you were going to ask my next question. I was like, stop before you answer it. How long is it going to take Urban Meyer I hate Urban Meyer. You can't be at two worse schools for my fandom than, you've been at Florida and Ohio State. I would despise Urban Meyer if he was my brother, But the cat can coach, and he's won everywhere. How long does it take Urban Meyer to learn the NFL game? And do you think there's any realm of possibility that he flops like Saban did in the NFL?
It's certainly not out of the possibility. A lot of college coaches have tried to make that transition and just don't succeed.
True.
College is all about recruiting, right? You get the right players there, surround yourself with a good staff. Or if you've got a good system, Chip Kelly, Urban Meyer, those are some of the systematic guys that have been in college that have produced well. They've drafted, or not drafted, but recruited the right players to that system. But yeah, that also comes down to coaching. So can he adapt? I think he definitely can. I would say within 3 years, if he hasn't adapted, I'd say he's probably not going to. But I'd give him 2 years, and I think he'll be competitive.
So Lenny, Urban Meyer's coaching career is coming on IPO tomorrow. Are you buying it or are you selling it?
I'm selling it. I think there's so much going around with the Jags. I like the owner, Sadiq Khan. He's got deep pockets and seems to be willing to do whatever it needs. Are they going to
family?
Completely. He does. Are they going to London at some point? What's the deal there? And the Jags fan base, they're awful. Even when they had that run, I guess it's been 3 years ago. When they went to the AFC Championship, or excuse me, yeah, did they make it that far?
Yeah, they went to lost to the
Yeah.
Patriots in the championship game.
And then, I mean, I'm not sure that they ever were, you know, a sellout stadium kind of place, you know, rabid, but I think there's just too much going on with that kind of fan base, and you know, I wouldn't touch it.
And the Khan family, Saeed's youngest son or oldest son, Tony, has started the AEW to compete with Vince McMahon.
Yep.
That family is certain willing to spend money, and they own. I forget they own Manchester. They don't own Manchester United, but they own one of the major soccer clubs in Europe. So yeah, it seems like a great sports family. Now, I'm gonna get a little closer to home with this one. Atlanta seems to be falling in love with Arthur Smith really fast. He says the right things. He does the right things. And I'm going to be honest with you. I did not know he was Fred Smith's son until the day he took the Falcons job. What did the Falcons get in Arthur Smith? Because I'm telling you, I'm in love with the guy so far.
Well, I think you got a great play caller. He schemes as well as anybody in the NFL and creates really unique packages and takes advantage really of what the talent he has on field. You know, it seems like he's one of those play callers. It seems like everything he does, you know, usually works. He usually is a plus yard situation, if not a big chunk of yards. You know, it seems like he puts together a pretty good at least here in Tennessee, you know, we had a good run pass option, you know, hitting them up with the play action after we pound them to death. But it seems like he put together, you know, some great schemes and even, you know, some sneaky stuff too, you know, some stuff that caught you off guard.
Well, yeah, I agree there. And I also think he's one of the new up and coming coaches. He worked his way through the ranks, obviously, here in Tennessee. I think he's such a great in-game manager. I really do. He really feels the flow of the game. He changes. He's not stubborn to stick with just the initial game plan. And I think you guys got a good one in Arthur.
In the first press conference he had, I was listening because I wanted to hear him say something like, you know, I had a great offense, but I also had Derrick Henry. And one of his first press conference, he goes, I had a great offense, but I had Derrick Henry. And I'll be honest with you, I don't know if I'm the biggest Derrick Henry fan or not, but he's won me over. How good is Derrick Henry?
Man, he's incredible. I was always a big of a, you know, of course, being a Tennessee fan, I always hated anybody who came from Alabama, and he came from the time. So you can't help but recognize that he's extremely talented. But people do forget, you know, he came within a frog hair of getting bounced from the league. You know, it took Eddie Jones to sit him down and say, "Hey, you got to start running, you know, like you're capable of." Those first couple of years in Tennessee, he didn't do anything. And then he found whatever seems to be working for him, and it's just gone off with it. I'm still skeptical. He's a huge running back. You know, it seems like he's prone for a knee injury at some point, but you know, he keeps proving me wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I love him. He's phenomenal. I was skeptics at first. We traded up to get him, and I was thinking of another, Alabama Heisman running back that's gonna just kind of fizzle out in the NFL. He was, I don't know how many runs he averaged in 40, 50 runs a game in Alabama. I mean, he was just carrying the load, and to take that punishment. And then in the NFL, but then you got to look at the guy. I mean, he's one of the hardest working players in the NFL. I mean, he works on his craft so well. He prepares his body. But one of the other things that's always gotten me is he kind of runs straight up, you know. Yeah. And for a guy that big, like you said, you just feel like an ACL's coming with a helmet at any point, and he just continues to stiff arm people right out of his way. So
He's amazing.
Hey, I'm all in, man. You know how many years he's got left. I hope we get 3 more good ones out of him, but you know who knows.
Let me ask a question. Would you give him a big max contract, or are you of the mindset, hey, let cut him and let's see what we can do out there?
I mean, I as a fan, I'm all about paying the guy the money, and as players too. You do what you can, you get paid. This is your job. This is not too many people have a lot of stuff after football. They'll start doing some investment things or whatnot. But yeah, you get your money while you can, and I'm all for any of the top players that bring the fans to the seats to get their money. So I have no
You
problem
don't think
with that.
it's a Chris Johnson repeat?
No, I don't think so. He's a different type of back.
Agreed.
Let me tell you, I think when I hear him speak, and I was a Chris Johnson fan. Little known fact: for years, when I worked for Sprint, you turned over the second page of the handout or the program was a Sprint ad. So we did a lot of business through the Titans and went to a lot of games. When I hear Derrick Henry talk, I just respect him. And he just sounds like a guy that's got a pretty good set of values. So I think we're facing right now, does Atlanta trade Julio Jones? And for Julio's sake, I kind of wish they would. I wish they would stick him in New England or somewhere that he could win a title. He's not going to do it in Atlanta the next 5 years. It's definitely a rebuild. So, all right, last question, guys. We'll get off of here. Again, Lenny and Brandon have kind of become my rotating guest here. We always have good talks. This was off the cuff, dude. It was kind of like last minute. Hey, this is what we're going to talk about. And we are going to keep this going. I think we've got some stuff in development. Really, I think we're going to probably see a full-time show as we get closer to football season and we can spend a little more time on football. So, Brandon and Lenny's going to be part of RiverCity-Media for a long time. But that being said, you are in right now. I'm firing you. You're not a developer. Lenny, you're not into Bitcoin. You are the general manager of the Tennessee Titans. You have a first-round pick to make for the Titans. Not necessarily who are you picking. Even who you're picking is fine, but what are you doing to improve your football team?
I think you got to go. I draft from points of need, or at least that's the way I think I would do it.
Let me make
I
a
think
note of that.
I think you got to go defense. That seems to be our Achilles heel, especially something in the secondary. We got torched a lot, put our corners on islands that weren't able to do it, and we paid the price for it. So I think I would probably look at cornerback or some kind of secondary piece there.
I've been doing a mock draft for a website, and I do have them taking, I think, a high-value corner that falls to them, and I think that could possibly be Caleb Farley from Virginia Tech. But that was my number one area of need for them. But Brandon, how about you, buddy?
Yeah, totally. I think number one on the board's cornerback. I mean, we, depleted that value there. So, how they do it, I have no idea. But if it's not there, or if they don't like a guy on their board, you look at an edge rusher or something of that nature, which we were desperate for. I think you got to keep it still best player on the board, but
right
within the scope of your needs. I think I don't think you just go all out best player on the board. So I would try and keep it definitely on the defensive side, but those two, cornerback, secondary or edge rusher being the top priorities.
Do you think, and I said last question, but I got one more because it's bothering me. With losing Corey Davis to free agency, losing Janu Smith to free agency, are they enough weapons for Tannehill they have some nice pieces still at receiver with Brown and such. And I think didn't the second string running back leave via free agency too? Do you later in the draft need to add some offensive pieces too?
I totally think so. Yeah, those two weapons that you just mentioned, and Jonnu and Corey, those are great little pieces that we'd hit for 50-yard, bombs here and there, and they'd leak out after pass protection or catch something unique and run with it. Extremely physical and extremely talented pass catchers. Those are hard to replace.
Yeah, I think. Sorry, Randall. Go ahead.
New England wrote Jonnu a big check. Like they wrapped their franchise in. This is the guy at tight end.
See, I thought he was, one of the better athletes on the field for sure. But it just always seemed like Ferkser got more catches and more touchdown looks than Jonnu did. And we kept him on board. I still think we can utilize him in the red zone as we're, getting someone new and developed in that position. Because I don't, outside of maybe 4 or 5 times, I don't really remember Jonnu making a huge impact play down the field, more than 5 or 10 yards,
right.
Which Ferkser is more than capable of doing. Corey Davis, I think, hurts a little bit more. He was kind of the B to the A-B selection there. So, I think it's something we got to work through. I don't know if they find someone late in the draft that can help accommodate Antonio, but we'll see.
Hey, and is I meant to ask this before. Is Taylor Lewan's health as important as anything that happens to the Titans in the offseason? I mean, because after he got hurt last year, I don't know if they were the same team.
I think he's definitely an emotional leader on the team. He brings some of that nastiness, and I think he's a good player. But I think he's more probably of a rallying point for our team. He's going to be the first one in the dog pile, busting it up, which is a valuable asset on a team.
He is. You just got to stay healthy. He just, the last two seasons, he's missed quite a few games, and it's really hurt our run, if you will, in the playoffs. So, he's definitely a valuable piece. He's gotten paid. Now we need a little bit of production out of him for sure before.
And he may be my favorite Titan because I like that nasty. I love it. I love
that. Yeah.
He is the kind of guy he'll grab your face.
You want a dog out there on your side, especially on the offensive line. I guarantee Derrick Henry is a big fan as well.
Yeah, I bet you Henry buys him a few rollies here and there. Guys, it's been a lot of fun. We'll be back let's try to run this back in like 2 weeks or something.
Yeah.
And give ourselves some time to come up with a subject. Maybe the draft in review would be a good thing because we'll have it and we'll know. And maybe we'll do a fantasy football preview after we know where everybody lands or something. But it was a good show. I appreciate it. Everybody, I'll be back in a half hour with the other two that they're not going to do as good as y'all did, but we won't tell them that. They're probably watching. There's 2 people watching right now. One of them's Roger and one of them's Robbie. It went up to 4. Allison just tuned in. So we appreciate you joining us. It's a great show.
Thank you, Randall.
For Randall, for Brandon.
Thanks for having us.
Hey, anytime, man. I love it. I love the investment part of this. This was fun.
Thank you, Randall.
Thank y'all, and I'll be back in about a half hour.
See you.
See you, man.
See ya. See you, brother.